Hello guys, welcome back to another tutorial by EClip. So this time I'm gonna talk about reverb plugins that I think are the best for music production. And generally here I have just the drum templates that I'm preparing and just imported a lead melody from Aurora Tales. This melody is supposed to go with a delay on it, sounds much better with a delay, but I turned off the delay just so you guys can be able to hear much better the results of the reverb plugins that I already prepared. So the first on my list is definitely the Blackhole from Eventide. This is for me one of the best sounding reverbs out there. I use it mostly for the leads and vocals. By its default settings it's pretty long and I do not like how does it sounds when I try to do a smaller reverb settings. So this one I recommend for leads, melodies and vocals. So let's just hear without, with and without. So this is Eventide is really famous by their algorithms and it just gives some kind of great ambience. So what I'm trying to do with the reverbs mostly when I put them on the leads is not to recreate any kind of space, it's just like to give some kind of ambience on it, like magical spice on top of the leads and the melodies. And definitely Blackhole is one of the best sounding plugins out there. The second reverb that I use a lot is actually EOS, but EOS from Audio Damage. This reverb is probably the longest and like the biggest. When you use it on like really small amount, as you can see here on 10%, it sounds like almost like infinite. I will show you how does it sounds on this lead, but I will show you also for some other tricks that I use EOS mostly. So EOS is kind of definitely one of the biggest. It creates like almost infinite reflections on the sounds, and most of the time I use it for example, if we take a kick. So let's just bounce this one. The most times that I use EOS is putting on, like, for example, you take a kick for creating impact booms in your tracks. The Super Hall is the longest one, and this is what I need for this example. Here you have a control of low cut and high cut and reverb EQs you're probably already familiar with. For these booms I just put it 2 times because it will create a much bigger effect, and you can put it a little bit longer if you want. And of course for boom you can use the filter because you don't need the high informations. So this was the example of using the reverb for some interesting stuff. It's much easier if you put the same kick that you're using in your tracks than going through the bunch of the impact sounds in some sample folders. Alright, so the third one is Valhalla. Valhalla is really good one as well. I use it a lot for the leads. So basically when I have a leads, I put first Blackhole, but if it doesn't sound good, I try with Valhalla. But basically they are kind of similar, but I like more what does the Blackhole do. It's kind of more modulations, and color of the reverb is a little bit better for my taste than Valhalla, but Valhalla is also a really good one. Only what I do when I use Valhalla is one trick that will help you to get a better sound results. So when I put a reverb on the leads, I try to create this ambience around and this kind of trance deep kind of atmosphere. So I usually do a little bit higher, high cut. So basically around 2K for me sounds the best. So I do reverberation mostly on the mids, because if you have a lot of reverb on highs, it will just create a lot of noise and artifacts which you will not be able to save a little bit later. So just imagine few layers of the lead, and then you have this kind of really open high informations on the reverb. It will create a lot of trouble for you. So basically what I do, I just play the lead melody and I pull it down, but I found out that from 4K, but on 4K is also a little bit too much. I'll always try to pull it a little bit less than that. That way I'm not having a lot of high information, and this is one of the things that you should be always aware of, that in reverb do not use too much reverberation on the highs. The next one in my list is RC24 by Native Instruments, but actually the company that made this is Softtube. There's also a glue compressor that you probably know. The glue compressor is the one compressor that is implemented in Ableton as well, really good one, and Softtube is pretty good company as well. If you want like more subtle effects, reverb effects, then I will recommend RC24 or RC48. Those two are kind of, if you want just to create a little bit of depth or the space in your tracks or leads or whatever. So RC24 is really good one, and RC48 as well. RC48 is a little bit bigger than RC24. And as you can see, most of them for the leads, the space is a little bit more. Size, for leads I always use a little bit bigger size. Pre-delay here is by default 24, but if you use a longer delays, then you will not be able to hear a pre-delay, because if the notes are playing a little bit more often. And then if you have a bigger size, and here the decays in mids are pretty big, so you will maybe hear on the first note the pre-delay, but later it will just, the tails of all notes will come on top of each other. So pre-delay is always better if you have like a single note. And as you can see here as well, the mids are pushed on top and highs are always a little bit down. So the next plugin in my list is definitely FabFilter Pro R. It's a reverb from FabFilter, and probably the plugin with the best interface out there. The sound we can talk about, it's pretty good, it's not bad, but still Blackhole sounds much better. But what I like about Pro R is that interface is really usable. Here you have this blue line, how you control the decay of the reverb, and then you will have here the EQ of the reverbs, which frequency spectrum you want to have the reverb. Here is the time and the space. The mix is here, stereo width, how much you want of reverb to go on the side, decay rate, character, will it be like clean, chorus, and here you will have, do you want it brighter or darker. So FabFilter Pro R is probably most used because of its amazing interface, and I would recommend all of them. I used all of them, just depends on the situation and what do I want to create. And the last one that I want to show you is the Roomworks. This is the reverb that comes with the Cubase, and this one is probably the best reverb that I found for us really small reverbs. For example, when you have some plucky sounds that you want to save and you cannot get rid of the transients and it just sounds harsh. For example, Silent has this kind of moment when you create lead, the color is nice, but something is wrong with the transients and you cannot find the solution how to control them. I always try to do with Roomworks. So it doesn't create this ambience, this space. I always use it mostly to try to fix the dynamics, or when you have a sound that is inside the mix. When you solo it, you hear it clearly, but then when you play the whole mix down, it just disappears, it just goes inside. This plugin always helps me to bring it a little bit in front or move it backwards, and it has also really good controls here, like the lows, highs, dampings envelope as well, size. I put it here the shortest possible, but it's also really good for longer ones as well, but I use for longer ones, as I said, Blackhole, and for the small ones, for example, hi-hats and some small single shots that you want to bring a little bit on top, I always use the Roomworks. So if you are able, buy those plugins, and if you're using Ableton, I'm not sure how to replace the Roomworks for you guys, but I think you will be able to manage to get some really decent results with all these plugins, with those 6 reverb plugins. So those are my top 7 reverb plugins for music production and Psytrance. So that was it for this one, and from now on all the tutorials will come on Wednesday. So see you next Wednesday with another tutorial. Don't forget to write down the comments, because I'm really interested in what do you want to see from me next, and I hope that you like the video, and see you soon. Bye.